We want to share that dream with these workers that have come into the country, the underprivileged. Bring them up. Let them have a home. Let them have their children go to college. Let them have an automobile. Think of the fact that they're going to have medical coverage. They don't have to worry about that. They're going to have a retirement. They don't have to be concerned with Social Security. I mean, our story is so good for all people in all walks of life.
It's like a backbone of America. It allows you to be what America's all about. It allows me to believe in and be who I am without having to cater to whomever might be my boss or in power at the time.
In one day, I was making more money than I'd made in the service in 2 weeks. And now I saw opportunities to do things. I saw an opportunity to be able to live the American dream, to be able to own my car, own a home, raise a family, and give my children the opportunity to go to college, something that certainly was not available to me growing up in the environment which I grew up in.
They've taken a lot of people from poverty in some cases and been able to get wages and conditions and benefits up.
Well, how did we get here? What gave us this opportunity? The Teamsters union, quite obviously.
Because of our strength and because we're more in the service and transportation sector, we've been able to preserve our power and our numbers. And I think that that is something unique about the Teamsters union, while other unions, although they tried very hard, have seen their numbers go down because they're in heavy manufacturing. And that heavy manufacturing is what's left this country.
When we go to do a career fair in the high schools, and we have our people that will go in and explain to the children and the teacher who's sitting in the room about the pension, about the benefits, and the teachers are saying, wait a minute, you're going to get what for a pension? Excuse me? Or the fact that you don't pay for your health insurance? And here are these professional people that wind up paying for these things, and we don't. So that's why I know that sooner or later these professionals are going to say, wait a minute here, they're onto something.
In general, when you ask the question, what's the difference between us and why isn't it that way with other unions, I don't think they don't come together like we do.
That's what we need to do, is to educate our oncoming people in the Teamsters and still give other unions a helping hand, because we're all in this fight together.
When it comes to health care, we take care of people. What we tell people, the difference between us and a company plan or an insurance company is we take the people from the cradle to the grave. We are long-term thinkers.
Me and my wife are just building a house. She's home. We're going to plan on a future family. And through the Teamsters, I'm able to do that because of the plans they come up with and the benefits that they help us out with a lot.
It is a good feeling to be able to go to the dentist, the doctor, or whatever, and know that I have good medical, dental.
I'll be eligible to retire in just under 2 years. It's a nice option. Maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't. It's a nice option that I have, and the Teamsters gave it to me. And I won't even be 55 at the time, so I'm delighted.
There was nothing like the Teamsters. My father worked, like I say, the fish pier, a rugged, tough job. You'd have to see it to believe it, what these guys did, you know, for work. And I done it, and I couldn't keep up with my father. You know what I mean? They handled boxes, barrels, crates, bags, and everything else. And everything was piled this high on a two-wheeler.
We started out when it was very hard. Everything was on the floor. You used a two-wheeler for most everything you did. Anything you moved was by a two-wheeler. It wasn't on a skid or a four-way pallet and forklift in and out of a truck. You humped and lumped freight, upstairs, downstairs, in and out alleys. You worked hard.
When I went to work for the AMP, you'd go out on deliveries all alone. You know, you put the stuff on the tailboard, could I jump down, carry it in. So when the union came along, right, if you went down the pier to pick up a load of canned goods, you'd throw them on a thing, then jump up, carry it, and put it in the front. One man. So when the union came along, right, we had 2 men on all the trucks. Do you know how many jobs that created? That's a chain store operation. In other words, what I say, that made my life better right there, right then and there.
When I got there, there were still horses and teams. They had about 3 horses and 3 real Teamsters. They had to hook up the, hitch up the horses to go to, go on the delivery route.
That would have been a tough job, You're handling horses. Well, we handle horsepower. We've got a big brown truck, and we're out there driving around, and it's our job to get whatever freight's behind us delivered, just like those team drivers had to.
And you just do it. He'd tell you, do this, do that, put the clutch this way, put the clutch that way, turn the wheel this way, and you learn. You learn within a couple of days. You become a first-class trailer driver. So we had trailers then were only 28 foot. Now today, God's sake, I think they're 50-some-odd feet long.
The going scale, like for driving the chicken trucks and things like that, was $12 a week. Before then, refrigeration is just coming in about at that time, and the chickens were brought in live, and cows and hogs were brought into the cities live, and we delivered them and they dressed them. And when I got paid, that was a union job. When I got paid, they paid me $20-some, and I didn't work but 8-hour day, work 8 hours and worked a 45-hour week, I think it was, 45 hours. And I got a paycheck. That paycheck was $20-some.
During the Depression, I can remember if a strike occurred, they would meet in my house, men, because my dad was always a foreman. They would meet, say, 3 o'clock on a Monday morning. They'd be gone for a week. That's the way strikes were those days. Today they have a strike, they get benefits, they get all kinds of things. And maybe it's too easy, I don't know. Maybe it's so easy now they don't really appreciate what the Teamsters have done for them. But I do.
You don't cross the picket line. It's just something you don't do. It's the way we're brought up, It's respect, and it just never even enters your mind.
When I was in Michigan, totally out of any sense of work, just working in the halls and having a great time as a grad student, Kroger out there was on strike. And I was with some friends on a Friday night going to get some food, and there was a picket line. And they said, "We got to stop in a Kroger and get something." And I said, "Well, I'm not stopping there." It was instant. I said, I don't cross lines. And that, I wasn't out at the union rallies in grad school. I was in grad school. I wasn't part of the movement, really, at all. But it was in the blood, and something told me something. That day, I said, "Wow, this is part of my makeup." And I was very proud of that. I called home and said, "Hey, there's a picket line at Kroger," and I didn't go in, and everybody got mad at me. But I was pretty happy about that.
In 1964, I was a senior in high school. And on a Sunday morning, my father called us to the kitchen table, my mother, my sister, and myself. And he explained to us that a great man, Jimmy Hoffa, had negotiated a master freight agreement that would take us into the middle class. And we were from a smaller town, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where you didn't enjoy the benefits and some of the pay scales of the big city. And what that contract did, it equalized pay and benefits across the whole country. So we were a great beneficiary of that, with much improved health care, better pension, and a lot better wages. And in addition, the working conditions improved. That he would now get time and a half after 8 hours on the job, and when you went in Saturday, you would get time and a half for your 6th day.
The day that I got in the union, my pay doubled from one day to the next day. My pay doubled. Not only did my pay double, when we had no unions, every Saturday and Sunday, I used to have to go out to the boss's house and do things at their house, and even at all that, I still wasn't making any money. So when the union came in, they said, now if they want to take you out, this is what it's going to cost them overtime. It's going to cost double that, because then I wasn't getting paid for any overtime. So the greatest thing that happened was that union.
It's made a big, huge difference in my life. I have a nice home, a nice car, a pension when I retire, health benefits, a good paycheck. I live a nice life. because my workplace is organized and union and Teamster especially.
It was a hard life raising 8 children. But like I said, I credit the Teamsters with it being a better life.
I come home from the service, I was making 87 cents an hour. By 1950, I was making $1.80. And in 2 years, I bought a house. I saved $3,500 for a down payment because you had to have a third down.
The reason that I love the union and my story to tell that it has paid off in the long run with benefits and everything. And I am so happy that I was a part of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters to see the rise for me and for other people.
It gave me an opportunity to afford a real good lifestyle and to buy a home and have a car and all the other things that go along with that. But the most important thing that came out of it was we have this great scholarship plan. And my daughter, because of that, had an opportunity to become a speech pathologist and audiologist.
Even though we worked for different companies, we always had the camaraderie here. This is it. This is the Teamster is what binds everybody, brings you together.
My father was in a coal driver in Paterson, New Jersey, and they asked him and some other fellows to come here in 1902 to organize the Teamsters. He was a charter member of the Teamsters Union, this local. I don't think it was called Local 25 at the time. It was called something like the Truck Drivers Union. They didn't have a number on it yet.
It was my grandfather, my father, 2 of my uncles, myself, my son John, my cousin Jay and his wife, and hopefully my grandchildren come on. There's 4 generations have been Teamsters so far.
When I started in 1943, there were still some horse and wagons around because of the gas rationing. A lot of these companies, the old companies in Boston, still were using horse and wagons because they couldn't get the gas for their trucks.
My father was a charter member of Local 380, and I was born in 1925. He was in the union before I was born. He was a Teamster. My Uncle Mike, my 2 brother-in-laws, my 4 brothers ahead of me, and 1 sister. There were 10 of us in the union, all Teamsters. I was raised into it.
My 3 sons were in the union. That'd be the 3rd generation. Now, 2 of my grandsons are in the union. One being a business agent here. That's the 4th generation.
My father's 96. I make sure he sits down with my boys on a regular basis and recollects everything that went on where he's from. He was originally born in Pittsburgh, and his father was a Teamster. I mean, real horses and wagons.
God bless my father. He got me my first Teamster job. I, in turn, got my son his first Teamster job.
We're a true Teamster family. I mean, make no question about it. Because of, my sister. She represented the Teamsters as an attorney.
Now, we have over 250 years of service in Local 25 in the McBride family.
My father is a retired Teamster, as a matter of fact. I think he joined the Teamsters in 1946. Drove a truck, and when I was probably 10, 12 years old, from time to time I'd go with him on weekends.
We're always in close proximity of each other because we were like a family. Teamsters is like a family, and some people don't understand that.
They have a family orientation. Teamsters have the ability to have different ideologies, but still come together in hard times. So I can't imagine the Teamsters ever folding.
It sort of gets in your blood. So I would say it's a lifestyle of sort. Absolutely.
It's hard to explain to a young boy when you didn't make his ball game or you didn't make your daughter's volleyball game, why, and why everyone else's dad is there but me. But when they found out what I was doing and became involved and I talked about it at home, everybody, including my wife, were fully supportive and still are.
Dad's worked Saturday and Sunday for the last 40 years.
We grew up on a highway, US 31
in South Bend, or in Lakeville, the only highway that you would take in between South Bend and Indianapolis, heavy freight line. Growing up, there would be people on their way home, on their way back in. They'd stop right at the house if they had a problem on a Sunday afternoon.
He always took the time to talk to those members. And we grew up learning that our job was to take care of those members. And he taught us that, and he instilled that in us. And he never complained about that. He never didn't take a call from a member because he was eating dinner. He never didn't go to the door when one stopped, or if he was out mowing the lawn and one stopped on a Sunday. He took the time, and we grew up around that.
I literally raised my sons on the picket line, and that's how we spent a lot of our weekends, a lot of our time. So we grew up a union family, and we're totally dedicated to what unions do.
And we grew up around going a lot of places with him, and I don't mean exotic. I mean going a lot to picket lines and visiting companies with him. And as a young man, when I was in high school, I used to sit in negotiations with my father, just sit against the wall and watch.
My father was working at Certified when they organized Certified, because he was there before the union days. And then when they organized it, he was the greatest thing ever happened to him. I remember him telling me, man, as long as you live, keep the union in there. If the union goes out, you guys don't know what you're doing. Stay with the union. Because he, like I said, he was there before the union. Then I was there. I hired in '60, and been union all the time. Then my youngest son, I think it's his 15th anniversary.
My oldest son, by the way, took my job when I retired. He moved in. He was already a Teamster, but when I retired, he took my job.
And there were no excuses to the boss that you couldn't get into a place because there was too much snow. Sorry. You carried that 150 or 200 pound bag or box or crate. You rolled it. Whatever you had to do, you got it delivered. These are the men that built unions in this country, and the Teamsters. Tough men, tough-minded men, because of the work they did. And why did they do it? For their families.
You have that bond. We all went through this together. Trial of fire, if you will. We all had good bosses, bad bosses. We all worked hard. We did basically the same thing. You would be running in the same area I would be. We had good point, would meet at a diner. You were at a stop. Geez, I couldn't get in there, you know. I drop it off at Nicholson Glue. I'll pick it up because that's my third stop. No, I'm smaller truck than you. I can get it in. Just give me your bill. I'll have Joe sign it, and I'll leave it at Nicholson, or I'll see you at Russ's Diner. Those are the things we did. This built a lot of trust, a lot of honesty, but you had a family.
In those days, truck drivers were respected people. They were the king of the road. They were the guy that delivered the products. They were the guy that you would always see alongside of the road helping out somebody in distress.
We helped each other. If you were going down the street and a guy was having a hard time lifting something, you'd stop, you'd give him a toss, hop back in.
I thought of nothing stopping the truck, getting out. Okay, pal, let's lift it, you know. Give it a heave and put it in the truck. Thanks, pal. Thanks, buddy, you know. Thanks, brother. That's what we used to do.
And back then, guys would wave to each other, break down. There'd be 5 trucks pulling up behind you to help you. You were never alone. You were never stranded.
People helped me coming along when I was just beginning. And they laid the groundwork, whether it was strikes or what it may be, to get me where I am and what I achieved today as a retiree.
Oh, I was always proud to be a Teamster. I wear it across the back of my shirt. Proud to be a Teamster.
I love being a Teamster. I've been a Teamster all my life. All my brothers and sisters are Teamsters now.
My father always said that being a Teamster member, everyone deserved their piece of the pie, that everyone was equal and everyone deserved their own share. And buying American products is very important to us. Buying union-made products is very important to us, as well as making my son understand that everyone's equal and everyone has rights, that everyone should be the same.
Being an African American, I experienced a lot of discrimination on the job as well as in the public sector otherwise. When I joined the Teamsters, it was something to me that leveled the playing field. No more would I be fired if I happened to be able to buy a new car and the boss didn't like it. No more that I have someone that I had no one to represent me if the boss didn't care how I wore my hair or the color of my skin. The Teamsters helped to level that playing field, and I believe ever indebted to them for that type of stance that they took and what they stood for. So that's what the Teamsters has meant to me, primarily, is a road of fairness for everyone.
There may have been women working in unionized jobs way back, but it was mostly men. Teamsters were guys. Team drivers, those were all men. It started out as a man's thing, and a lot of people now still associate that Teamsters or union with guys, men. It's a man's job, they're union, that's what goes on.
But now you do have women truck drivers, you do have women construction workers, we do have women police officers. And that's the thing, is to get them, more of them in these type of occupations. Either that or to organize women who are in other occupations that would become part of the Teamsters. We're not just truck drivers anymore.
I feel part of a family, part of the Teamsters, strong union, international brotherhood of Teamsters. And I think that name is just perfect for what the Teamsters is all about.
The true meaning of unionism is brotherhood, sisterhood, working together, helping one another. When your brother or sister fall, give them a hand.
You're looking at older generations, guys who are old enough to be my grandfather, my father. I'm treated as an equal. I'm not the kid by age, but we talk to each other. We're equals.
You're talking about a generation of people who went through the Depression. And I think all of those people were marked in a certain way by that experience. And, you know, the union to them meant a lot.
Thinking back when I was a kid, like I say, it was an adventure for me. And as I grew older, I realized for me it was an adventure. And for my dad and my uncles and the people who did them jobs back when the Teamsters got off the ground, it wasn't an adventure. It was existence, sometimes a tough existence.
We learn what came before us. I mean, I've got retirees that started out in the 30s and 40s that went through rough times. It wasn't easy to negotiate contracts, and I mean, there was a lot of violence. And I think now we can do things nonviolently, and I think to celebrate something so wonderful that helped so many working people, not just union members, I think it's great.
It's just a great thing what unions have done for, you know, generations of people. And hopefully that, you know, new immigrants and new people to this country, that, you know, the unions in the future will do the same thing for them.
We're fortunate to be learning from the older people. So I think just the fact that we're here, it shows that we're going to be here for a long time, because now one day we're going to be the older crowd and we're going to be teaching the younger people. So I really think it's important, and I think it's a good thing that the older people actually spend the time to teach us younger people.
And my father was a Teamster. He went to work for Henry Jenkins in 1922. He was a veteran of World War I in the United States Navy, and I was a veteran of World War II in the United States Navy. And I've had the ability to make comparisons of what life was like for him raising 10 and what it was like for me raising 12. And let me tell you, with the help of the Teamsters and the benefits that we acquired contractually, it was a whole different world, He never had what I had, which was well, actually, he did get the pension. He was one of the first that went out on the pension. But he never had any health and welfare, didn't have any dental, he didn't have eyeglasses, he didn't have audiology, he didn't have health insurance that covered him in the hospitals or the doctors, all of which I had with the Teamsters. And it made one big hell of a difference.
That's why you need a good foundation. It's like a family. I have a large family, and it's good to know your roots And it's good to know that you've got a solid base to have a family on.
If they could go and sit and just talk to the younger people, maybe have a town meeting or something and have some of these old guys there that really know their business and know their history and what they did and how they did it and what kind of problems they had, I think it would be an eye-opener.
And that's why I think that the Teamsters are still strong today, because that is what has been going on. You know, we've been not trying to surpass the older people, but trying to learn from them. Because really, who better to learn from than the people that already lived it and the people that have pretty much paved the path for the rest of us.
The Teamsters is, in my eyes, the elite of the labor unions. We've had a tough reputation from the beginning. We started out tough, and we've stayed that way. And maybe that's what it takes to represent members. I've always been proud to say, hey, we started out tough. We've had, lots of rough and tumble fights, but that's what it takes sometimes to make it happen. I've never been ashamed that I've been a Teamster.
One of my brothers, he's kind of anti-union because he's management. And one day, me and my brothers were kind of arguing back and forth about the Teamsters. And the one that's somewhat anti-Teamsters saying, blankety blank this, blankety blank that. My father looks at him, he says, son, he said, I've had enough. He said, what are you talking about, Dad? He says, you're knocking the Teamsters, and they've given you everything you have today. And my brother comes back with a retort, says, well, the companies give you. He says, no. He says, the company wouldn't have given me nothing if it hadn't been for the Teamsters negotiating a good contract for me. And that kind of stuck with me.
The Teamsters are becoming smarter. I think we're progressing as far as the technology. We're not the old rough and tumble, yell at each other type Teamster anymore like it used to be. I think we're more sophisticated.
Being a Teamster is a decision that I have never regretted.
My family has enjoyed a good quality of life because they wear the emblem of the Teamsters.
Anywhere we go, airports, just came off a cruise. Anywhere you go, you find Teamster workers, and they find out that we are Teamsters. Right away, there comes a connection, a harmonious connection, and it makes you feel proud.
You've got one big extended family. And you see this shirt? In Florida, it's like a magnet. I'm down there. Guys, I'm from 633 in Manchester. I'm from 42 in Lynn. I'm from Chicago. I'm from New Mexico. All over the country, people bump in. They see that Teamster shirt, and they come. And they're proud of it.
I'll be a Teamster as long as I live. Most Teamsters will. Once a Teamster, always a Teamster.
It's in my blood. I hope it stays there, too.
Loved being a Teamster. I mean it. Good life.
It's not a job. It's a profession, and it's a life. It really, truly is. It's been 31 years of my life, but it will be to the day I die, I will be a Teamster.
Deregulation came in 1979 when we had 600,000 freight drivers at that time. They saw the handwriting on the wall with the deregulation, and they went out to diversify the union, which is why we're as big as we are today.
And I think they're trying to get a lot of people in the service industries, which I think is a great thing, because by and large, these people are poorly paid, poor benefits. They tend to be a lot of minorities, a lot of new immigrants, and this is what I think the union's all about. These people are going to be lifted up, and they're going to be the model citizens that we want.
In our own local union, we've reached out to these groups. We have about, of the 4,400 members we have about 800 women. And so we started having women's caucus and having meetings with the women to try to get them more involved. I just hired recently, for instance, the first woman business agent in the history of our local. And so, and we have women on the executive board. So we've done what we can to try and reach out to the people, and it's not just because they're women, it's because they're qualified candidates. They just happen to be women.
Women have a lot to offer. Women are strong. On the organizing drives we've done where it's mostly women, they're tough. Women are tough. When they get together or when they know they've got a reason, they know they've got a cause, you can't beat them.
Today, the Teamsters, I would say, probably are the most diversified union in the world. They represent more people in more industries and more walks of life than any other union in this country.
I mean, we're inclusive. We have women. We've got everybody. Everybody gets treated equal. The Teamsters.
Women can do a lot for the Teamsters, and I've personally seen it. I've done it somewhat myself. I've been a shop steward with feeder drivers, and that's pretty difficult. But it's getting better.
But not in the non-traditional titles. When I say non-traditional, that's heating plant technicians or firemen when I started, assistant superintendents, caretakers, maintenance workers.
We represent department heads of cities, high school principals, assistant principals. Then we represent the custodians. We represent all walks of life. We will help anybody and everybody.
There are more and more women that are working, that are becoming Teamsters. There are more women that are becoming leaders, more women in the IBT.
I think diversity and just being in this big union of Teamsters and having that much diversity, I think it's great.
We have a large contingent of minority employees who are organized, and that's the future, frankly, especially in the big cities of the union, is to organize the minorities, and that's why we teach English as a second language, and we get involved with the church groups.
Most businesses put themselves in bad positions. They get to the point where they get greedy and they start taking and taking and taking and taking things away that they almost force their members to go into a union, to have some sort of substance out of their work.
Those people that run the union care about us. The guys who run the companies we work for don't particularly care. If we're not there, we can be replaced. The guys who run the unions make you feel like we really care about what happens to you, because that's why you got us here. That's why you put us in office. That's why you created a labor union. That's why it exists. If employers were good to their employees and they did all this stuff and gave us all this stuff that we have with our contract, we wouldn't have to have a labor union. We wouldn't have to have a business agent to go in there and argue for us. We wouldn't have to have somebody to negotiate our contract. We wouldn't have to have any of that if the employers did it right. But because they didn't do it right, guess what? Now they got the Teamsters.
It gave them, what in this country, we call the middle class lifestyle. The unions brought a whole element of people into the middle class that would never have gotten there without a trade union contract.
So I think as a whole, this country can look to the Teamsters and say, hey, thanks, because most companies wouldn't be offering medical coverage or any semblance of a pension or a 401 if it wasn't for the Teamsters. That's where a lot of people make a mistake, not giving us the credit.
The non-union people are making this much money because the union people are making this much money, and we set the standard. I think that's an important thing. You know what I mean? We're dragging everybody else along with us. And maybe they don't want to be interested in being a union member, but they're basically on our back.
Had good wages, you had nice health and welfare, nice pension. What more could a guy want? My company went bankrupt. The people that worked for them that weren't union didn't get nothing. No pension. They were there as long as I was. Didn't get a dime. No pension, nothing. I've been collecting pension now 17 years almost.
By paying a decent wage and allowing for decent benefits, it just brings everyone up.
When people are united, that's the strength. That's the strength in a union. That's the strength in anything that you talk about. I mean, when people are together with the same ideas, the same principles, and moving in the same direction, that's what you need.
See, labor union is the best thing ever happened for organized people that work, that get together, stand shoulder to shoulder with each other and help, because everybody's each other. You ain't this and you ain't that. You're just one group of people that's trying to get the same thing, a decent salary, a decent wage for your family.
We need a strong middle class in this country, which is what unions provide, middle-class jobs. And if you don't have that, then this country is going to be the people, the very, very rich people that are exporting jobs, the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts of the world, who are billionaires, and the people down here working at Kmart. And there's going to be no middle class, and America can't survive that way.
I see a turnaround now that is coming back to the power that had always had before. That when you mention the Teamsters, more people wanted to join it than to run away from it.
Because, see, things can't grow overnight to be prosperous. So you have to build and build and continue to build.
I think right now we're trying to grow. We see the need to expand and to make the right decisions.
The forefathers had the guts, they had the desire, and they had the wherewithal to fight for something better. And we need to learn from that. And I think it speaks good about this great union of ours and why we will be a survivor in the 21st century and why we will be vibrant and a growing union again in the 21st century.
There's going to be an awful lot more to talk about, of course, in the next 100 years. Probably things that we've never even dreamed of.
Protecting working families, the worker, just the principle alone will drive this union 200, 300, 400 more years.
This is the best job there is. There are no jobs as good as this. And this is the kind of job that you can't talk to anybody about. Number one, nobody would believe it. Nobody would believe that you can drive a truck and make this kind of money. Nobody would believe that. And even if they do believe it, they're going to be jealous of it. So you can't tell anybody. You know, you just have to keep it to yourself.
The pride in Teamsters is knowing that you can walk up to the president of our international and be comfortable enough to say hello.
The Teamsters are the most, let's say, respected union.
So I take a lot of pride in the legacy. I often, in these halls, I show politicians and candidates and other members pictures of my grandfather. Most of them know my dad, and I take a lot of pride in it. It's who I am.
Well, I've loved the Teamsters since I've been in it. You know, I really get along with everybody.
We've been given a bad rap many times over. We're just like everybody else. We're just average people, but most of us take a whole lot more pride in what we do.